The silence before the storm. The Valoran Empire had controlled the galaxy for over 3 centuries. 50 star systems bowed to their rule. Thousands of worlds paid tribute to their throne. Their military fleet numbered in the tens of thousands, and their technology was unmatched by any known civilization. The Valorans were tall, proud beings with silver skin that shimmered under starlight and eyes that glowed like molten gold. They believed in their superiority with absolute certainty. They had conquered every species that dared to challenge them. They had erased entire civilizations from existence when those civilizations refused to submit. And 300 years ago, they had done exactly that to a small, stubborn species called humanity. Commander Thex stood on the bridge of his patrol cruiser, the Shardblade, staring out into the endless darkness of space. He was a mid-ranking officer in the Empire's Outer Rim Defense Fleet, stationed at the edge of known space where nothing interesting ever happened. His ship patrolled the boundary between the Empire's territory and the Void Sector, a region of space so empty and lifeless that even pirates avoided it. Thex found the assignment boring beyond measure. Day after day, his sensors showed nothing but empty space, distant stars and the occasional comet. His crew spent most of their time in sleep cycles or playing virtual games to pass the endless hours. On this particular day, Thex was reviewing maintenance reports when his sensor officer, a young Valoran named Sorrel, suddenly shouted from his station. The sound was so unexpected that Thex nearly dropped his datapad. Sorrel never shouted. In fact, Sorrel barely spoke at all. Thex turned sharply toward him, irritation flashing across his features. "What is wrong with you, Officer Sorrel?" Thex demanded. "Have you forgotten proper protocol?" Sorrel did not answer immediately. His golden eyes were wide with shock, fixed on his sensor display. His hands trembled as they moved across the controls, recalibrating, checking, rechecking. "Commander," Sorrel finally said, his voice shaking, "you need to see this. Now!" Thex crossed the bridge in 3 long strides and looked over Sorrel's shoulder at the display. What he saw made his blood run cold. The sensor showed a massive energy signature forming at the very edge of the Void Sector. It was not a star. It was not a black hole. It was not any natural phenomenon that Thex had ever encountered in his 20 years of service. The energy reading was off the scale, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. Thex felt his throat tighten. "What am I looking at?" he asked quietly. Sorrel shook his head. "I do not know, Commander. The energy signature does not match anything in our database. It appeared suddenly about 30 seconds ago, and it is growing stronger." Thex stared at the display, his mind racing. Nothing just appeared in empty space. Nothing generated energy signatures this powerful without a source. "Alert the rest of the crew," Thex ordered. "Bring all systems online. I want full scans of that area." Sorrel's fingers flew across his console as he transmitted the alert. Within moments, the bridge came alive with activity. Officers rushed to their stations. Lights brightened. The ship's engines hummed louder as power levels increased. The weapons officer activated the defensive systems. Everyone moved with practiced efficiency. But Thex could see the fear in their eyes. They had all seen the readings. They all knew something was very wrong. The energy signature continued to grow. Then, without warning, space itself began to twist. Thex watched in horror as the stars in that region seemed to bend and warp like reflections in disturbed water. Reality itself appeared to be tearing apart. "Commander," Sorrel shouted, his voice cracking, "it is a wormhole! It is opening!" Thex gripped the railing in front of him. "A wormhole? Who has the technology to create a stable wormhole?" No one answered because no one knew. Wormhole technology was theoretical, something scientists discussed in research papers but never achieved in practice. The Empire itself had tried for centuries to create stable wormholes and failed every time. Yet here, at the edge of the galaxy, someone or something had succeeded. The wormhole expanded rapidly, growing from a small tear in space to a massive, swirling vortex of light and energy. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Colors that had no names danced across its surface. Energy crackled around its edges like lightning. Then something emerged from the wormhole. At first, it was just a shadow, dark and indistinct. But as it moved forward, the shadow took shape. It was a ship, but not just any ship. This vessel was enormous, larger than anything Thex had ever seen. It was sleek and black with sharp, angular lines that seemed designed for both beauty and war. Blue light glowed along its hull in patterns that looked almost like veins. The ship moved with a grace that defied its massive size, sliding through space as smoothly as a predator through water. Thex felt his legs weaken. "What is that?" he whispered. No one answered. They were all staring at the impossible ship with the same mixture of awe and terror. The ship was followed by another, then another, then 10 more, then 100. The wormhole continued to release vessels, each one as impressive as the first. Some were long and narrow like spears, others were wide and flat like shields. Some bristled with weapons that Thex could not identify. The variety was astounding, yet they all shared the same dark coloring and the same eerie blue glow. Sorrel's voice broke the silence. "Commander, the database has identified the ship design." Thex turned to him slowly. "What?" Sorrel's face had gone pale, his golden eyes dim with disbelief. "The design matches records from 300 years ago. These are human ships." The bridge fell silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Human ships. That was impossible. Humanity was extinct. The Empire had made certain of that. 300 years ago, humans were a young, space-faring species, exploring the galaxy with enthusiasm and hope. They had made contact with the Valoran Empire and had foolishly refused to submit to Empire rule. They valued something they called freedom more than survival. The Empire had given them many chances to surrender. Humans refused every single time. So the Empire did what it always did with stubborn species. They destroyed humanity's homeworld, a small blue planet called Earth. They hunted down every human colony ship. They eliminated every outpost. They erased humanity from the galaxy. Or so they believed. Yet here, emerging from a wormhole at the edge of space, were ships that could only be human. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. The wormhole kept releasing more and more vessels until they filled the sensor display like stars filling the night sky. Commander Thex felt something he had never felt in his entire military career. He felt genuine fear. Not the fear of a difficult battle or a dangerous mission. This was the fear of facing something completely unknown, something that should not exist. His training told him to attack, to defend Empire territory, to show strength, but his instincts screamed at him to run. Sorrel spoke again, his voice barely a whisper. "Commander, what do we do?" Thex opened his mouth to answer, but before he could speak, every screen on the bridge flickered. The lights dimmed for a moment. Then, a message appeared on the main display. It was written in perfect Valoran script, but the words were clearly human in origin. The message was simple and chilling. "Valoran Empire, we have returned. For 300 years you believed us destroyed. You were wrong. We did not die. We evolved. We grew stronger. We learned. We prepared. And now we have come back. Not for revenge, not for conquest, but for justice. This galaxy will learn what happens when you try to erase humanity from existence. You wanted us gone? Instead, you created something far more dangerous than you could ever imagine. This is your only warning. Prepare yourselves." The message ended. The screen went dark. The bridge remained silent. Every officer stared at the display in shock. Thex felt his hand shaking. He looked out at the human fleet, now fully assembled before them. There were too many ships to count. Their combined energy output was greater than anything the Empire could produce. Then, as if responding to some unheard command, every human ship turned toward the shard blade. Thousands of vessels, all pointing directly at Thex's small patrol cruiser. Their weapons began to glow brighter. Their engines pulsed with power. Thex knew in that moment that humanity had not simply survived. They had transformed into something new, something powerful, something that the Empire was utterly unprepared to face. He reached for the communications console with trembling hands. "Send an emergency transmission to High Command," he ordered, his voice hoarse. "Tell them humanity has returned. Tell them we need every ship we have. Tell them the galaxy is about to change forever." As Sorrel transmitted the desperate message, the human fleet began to move forward, advancing toward Empire space with silent, terrible purpose. The war that everyone believed had ended 300 years ago was about to begin again. And this time, humanity would not be the prey. When legends return. The emergency transmission from Commander Thex's patrol ship reached the Valeran Empire's high command within minutes. The message traveled through quantum relays, jumping across light years in seconds until it arrived at the heart of the Empire's power. The Imperial Citadel, a massive space station orbiting the capital world of Valeran Prime, received the transmission and immediately triggered the highest level of alert. Within the Citadel's war room, alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed across every surface. Holographic displays activated automatically, showing the location of every Empire fleet across all 50 star systems. The room filled rapidly with the Empire's most senior military commanders, all of them pulled from their duties by the unprecedented emergency signal. Admiral Kryn was the first to arrive. She was a veteran of 40 years, a warrior who had commanded fleets in dozens of battles and never lost a single engagement. Her silver skin bore the scars of old wounds, and her golden eyes burned with the intensity of someone who had spent her entire life fighting. She strode to the central command platform and activated the holographic display, pulling up Commander Thex's transmission. As she read the words, her expression changed from annoyance to confusion to absolute disbelief. Humanity has returned? Those three words made no sense. Humanity was a ghost story, a footnote in ancient history, a lesson about what happened to species that defied the Empire. They could not return because they no longer existed. Other commanders gathered around her, reading the message for themselves. Some laughed nervously, dismissing it as a mistake or a malfunction. Others remained silent, studying the accompanying sensor data that showed thousands of unidentified ships emerging from a wormhole at the outer rim. General Vex, a grizzled warrior with half his face replaced by combat cybernetics, spoke first. "This must be a sensor error. Humans are extinct. We made certain of it 3 centuries ago." Admiral Kryn shook her head slowly. "Commander Thex is one of our most reliable officers. He would not send a false alarm. And look at these energy signatures. Whatever those ships are, they are real and they are powerful." Another commander, a younger officer named Talon, zoomed in on the ship designs displayed in the sensor data. His eyes widened. "I have seen these patterns before in historical archives. These hull configurations match ancient human warship designs from before the extinction." The room erupted in argument. Some commanders insisted it was impossible. Others demanded immediate military response. A few suggested it might be another species using stolen or discovered human technology. Admiral Kryn raised her hand for silence. The room obeyed instantly. "We cannot afford to make assumptions," she said firmly. "If there is even a possibility that humanity survived and rebuilt, we must treat this as a genuine threat. I want all defensive fleets positioned around our core systems immediately. I want reconnaissance drones sent to the outer rim, and I want every available piece of intelligence about humanity's capabilities from 300 years ago brought to this room. Now." Officers scattered to execute her orders. The war room transformed into controlled chaos as the Empire's military machine began to mobilize. Far away, at the edge of Empire space, the human fleet had not stopped moving. They advanced slowly, but steadily, their formation perfect and precise. Commander Thex's patrol ship, the Shardblade, had retreated to a safe distance, but Thex continued to monitor the approaching armada. He transmitted constant updates to High Command, describing everything he saw. The human ships moved in complete silence, with no radio chatter, no stray communications, nothing that might reveal their intentions or capabilities.
It was as if they were a single organism rather than thousands of individual vessels. Thex found this coordination more frightening than their weapons. It suggested a level of unity and discipline that the Empire's own fleets rarely achieved. Suddenly, every human ship stopped. Simultaneously, the entire fleet came to a halt in perfect unison, as if they had all received the same command at the exact same instant. Thex watched nervously as the largest ship, the massive black vessel that had emerged first from the wormhole, moved forward alone. It advanced past the rest of the fleet until it was clearly visible against the backdrop of stars. Then it activated a transmission on all frequencies, a broadcast so powerful that it reached every Empire ship, station, and outpost within 20 light-years. The voice that spoke was human, calm and clear, with an accent that sounded strange to Valeran ears. It was the voice of someone who had nothing to fear and everything to say. "People of the Valeran Empire," the voice began, "you do not know us, but we know you very well. We are the descendants of Earth, the children of humanity. 300 years ago, your empire attacked our homeworld without warning or mercy. You destroyed our planet. You hunted our people across the stars. You tried to erase us from existence because we refused to surrender our freedom." The voice paused, letting the words sink in. "But you failed. You did not destroy all of us. A small group of our ancestors escaped. They fled to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, beyond your maps, beyond your sensors, into regions of space you never dared to explore. There, in the darkness and isolation, we did more than just survive. We thrived. We built new worlds. We developed new technologies. We grew stronger with every passing year." Commander Thex listened to the transmission with growing dread. The human voice continued, now with an edge of steel beneath the calm tone. "We spent 300 years preparing for this moment. We studied your empire. We learned your weaknesses. We developed weapons and ships that would make us your equals. But we did not do this out of hatred. We did this out of necessity, because we knew that one day we would need to return. Not to seek revenge, though we have every right to it. Not to wage war, though we are fully prepared for it. We returned to ensure that what you did to us never happens to anyone else, ever again." The transmission paused again. When the voice resumed, it carried absolute certainty. "The galaxy is about to change. Your empire will no longer rule through fear and destruction. A new age is coming, and humanity will be part of it." At the Imperial Citadel, the entire High Command listened to the broadcast in stunned silence. Admiral Kryn felt a cold weight settle in her chest. This was not the desperate plea of survivors. This was not the angry threat of rebels. This was a declaration from equals, perhaps even from superiors. The human voice had spoken with the confidence of someone who held all the advantages. When the transmission ended, the war room remained quiet for several long seconds. Then General Vex slammed his fist on the console. "This is intolerable. How dare they threaten the Empire? We should launch every ship we have and crush them immediately." Admiral Kryn shook her head slowly. "No. We need information first. We need to understand what we are facing. Attacking blindly could be exactly what they want us to do." Before anyone could respond, every screen in the war room flickered. The lights dimmed, and then, impossibly, the human fleet appeared on the holographic display, but not as distant sensor readings. The humans had somehow hacked directly into the Citadel systems and were broadcasting their own images. The display showed the inside of the human flagship's bridge. Standing at the center of the hologram was a human woman, tall and strong, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to look directly through the hologram at every person in the war room. She wore a uniform of deep blue with silver markings, and her expression was one of calm determination. "My name is Admiral Sarah Chen. I command humanity's First Fleet. We have been monitoring your communications. We know you are preparing for battle. We know you are moving your ships into defensive positions. And we want you to understand something very clearly before this goes any further." Admiral Chen gestured to someone off-screen. The holographic display changed, showing technical schematics of Valeran military technology, detailed maps of Empire fleet positions, and classified information that should have been impossible for outsiders to access. "We know everything about you," Admiral Chen said simply. "Your ship designs, your weapon systems, your defensive strategies, your supply lines, your political structure, everything. We have spent 300 years studying you, preparing for you, and ensuring that when we returned, we would hold every possible advantage." The holograms disappeared, replaced by Chin's face once more. "But we are not here to destroy you. We are here to offer you a choice." The Valeran commanders leaned forward, listening intently. Admiral Chen continued, her voice steady and clear. "You can accept that humanity has returned as a sovereign power in this galaxy. You can negotiate with us as equals. You can begin the process of making amends for the genocide you committed against our ancestors. Or you can choose to fight us. And if you choose to fight, I promise you this: you will lose. Not because we